Hi, this is Lyndall with Watery Wishes, and today I have an entry for the Simon Says Stamp Wednesday Challenge blog. And the theme this week is anything but a card, and they are featuring My Favourite Things products. By the time this video goes up, the challenge will almost be over, probably with maybe an hour to go. Yes, I've been a little bit busy this week. So this art journal, which is what this is, started off in a completely different place from where it ended up. I have one MFT stamp set, and I had a vision as to what I wanted to do, but using the oxides, once I'd done all this stenciling of clouds, which I created my own stencil, they were just a bit too bright, and then when I pushed them back, they were too white, and I sort of played with it until it ended up completely different to where I started from. But I was actually really happy with the result. The background ended up turning really soft and pretty, which I quite liked. So as you can see, I'm just laying down a whole heap of oxides, and I created that temporary card stencil just with a bit of cardstock, and I have it's a stitched cloud die. It doesn't actually cut clouds, so I use that as a guide to cut the clouds. So I put it in my die machine, and then I cut along the stitched lines. I actually end up making another one freehand because, as you can see, there's a bit of transference of the previous oxide onto the next layer. So I've also die cut some clouds off camera, and I'm just going around the edges of them with tumbled glass, and they do get used in the finished product. The oxides in the back you don't really see. I think it's wilted violet, picked raspberry, peacock feathers, seedless preserves, worn lipstick, tumbled glass, and antique linen are the distress oxides on the back at the moment. But as I said, you don't really see them in the finished product, so that step definitely isn't necessary if you're going to try and recreate the end layout. So here I'm just sealing it in a bit with some gel medium, and it's picking up the oxides a bit, which I expected it to. So it's a little bit streaky. I probably should have let it dry a little bit longer before I put the gel medium on, but I didn't. So, but as I said, this doesn't get used in the final. Well, the pages get used, but you won't see this bit in the final part. So because I felt it was a bit too bright, I'm going over it with a bit of white linen Dilutions paint, and to get that on there, and I'm not really happy with that either. So I sort of get a little bit of, I think it's hickory smoke distress oxide out, trying to see if that will work. It doesn't. So once I faffed about with that a bit, I get some of my new acrylic paints out and have a look and see how that's going to go. So after I had a little look at the acrylic paints, I get some postal paper out, Tim Holtz postal paper, and I start putting that all over the page. I decide I'm just going to start layering up and see where that takes me. And I'm not covering every part of the page, just certain bits of it. And as you can see, when I'm going over the seam, I'm sort of lifting the page up to make sure that it's creasing at the seam and isn't going to just pop up when I open the page up. And I'm sort of purposefully picking bits and pieces out of this postal collage paper. And here are my new Liquitex Basics paints. I got it's basically a sample pack with, they come with 42 tubes of 22mm paints. They're not big, but they give you an idea of what you're going to use. So you can then order the full-size tubes of whatever colours you actually use the most. So here I am with some damp kitchen sponge, just sponging some more colour on. And I'll probably experiment with doing something similar to this for a different type of layout. This one just, most of this gets covered up too. Like you can't see any of, I don't think you can really see the postal tape or the postal paper or any of that by the time I've finished. There is a little bit of texture on the page that you can see from the paper, but you can't actually see the graphics that are actually on it. And now I'm mixing up a little bit of clear range texture paste with a little bit of Nouveau Glimmer paste and some copper paint. And those glimmer paste jars get so hard to open when you haven't opened them for a while. So I didn't feel I had enough. So I just added a bit more texture paste. And I did the tops of both pages, and then I went and cleaned my stencil, and then I came back and did the bottom parts, and then went and cleaned my stencil and all of my tools. Because it's got that glimmer paste in it, that stuff sets like concrete, and you want to get it off your everything as quick as you can. Now here I've just cut freehand, very similar to what I'd done before, and I'm actually using the opaque texture paste here to create some clouds. And I'm just getting it on there to get the edge defined, and then I'm going to take my finger and make it sort of swirly, because I don't want it completely flat. I want it to have a bit of actual texture. and puffiness like clouds. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and I'm going to heat it. And what happens when you put this texture paste, especially when you put it over the collage paper will separate from your page and it will bubble up and puff even more so than if you just used the texture paste on a plain page. So here I'm just going over everything with a bit of salty ocean. And try to take it back a bit. Here I've got some heavier body white acrylic paint rather than the stuff I usually use for splatters and whatnot. Now I'm using that to paint over the texture paste to make it whiter, and then I'm knocking back the background just a little bit more. And as you can see, a lot of that postal paper is not very visible right now. And that was me dropping a blending tool into my paint. Now just trying to get a little bit of that back up into the tube. And I do that by tapping it down, pressing to get the air out, then sticking it over and then sort of sucking it back up into the tube. Not that you get much, but you get a little bit. So now I'm just taking the paint straight from the tube, putting it on the page. Adding a little bit of white to that purple and a little bit more blue to the page. And as you can see, you can't really see the postal paper, but the texture paste and the postal paper and all the layers underneath have given it a bit of texture that it didn't have and wouldn't have just with the color on it. Now I'm using some of that glimmer paste to add a bit of sparkle and shine to my sky background. And you can see the excuse me, you can see the images that I've got coloured over on the right. I coloured them in with Copic markers. And this is after I've heated up the texture paste a little bit, and you can see where I've gone over it with a little bit of tumbled glass, and it's got bubbly texture to it, so I quite like that effect. I must not have got it on camera when I did it, but especially near that little baby green dragon, that bit puffed up a fair bit. And now I'm just figuring out where I want everything and starting to adhere it all down. And as you can see above my art journal, not even the Tim Holtz mat saves me from the cluttered workspace. It does help a lot though. It's not anywhere near as bad as it used to get. And I've got some of the clouds going off the page because I find it helps with the continuity. And yes, I'm sticking those puffs of smoke at the rear of the dragons like they are farting. I just thought, I saw it with the blue one, the blue dragon, and the expression on his face, and it was laying there on my desk like that. And I thought, oh, that's just brilliant. So, yeah. Just goes to show you are never too old for toilet humour. And I've cut that purple dragon where it's on the crease so that it doesn't lift or anything. And now I just have to trim the edges of the clouds off. Just checking if I want that cloud anywhere, and I really don't. And now I'm just going over everything with some gel medium so that they don't come unstuck at any time in the future. Because gel medium is an acrylic medium, it basically puts a layer of acrylic plastic over the whole thing, so it sort of sticks everything in place. And as finishing touches, I'm going to use I've got some gold drawing ink from Winsor & Newton that I've mixed up, and I'm going to put that on the top of the castle and on the little princess's crown, just to add a hint of gold. And then as the very final touch, I'm going to get some Simon Says Stamp Wisteria ink, and I'm going to go around the edge of the pages to finish it off. So that's the art journal for this Simon Says Stamp challenge. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't enjoy it, hit the dislike button. I'd be really happy if you subscribe to see future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And don't forget, have fun crafting your imagination. Bye.